welcome everyone. It's really brilliant. This has been such a popular session. I think it's an up-and-coming idea. It's really good. It's found its time. So I'm Jade Bashford from the Real Farming Trust. And we've got a small part in a bigger project that's about landed kitchens, which Cara from Coventry University is about to introduce to you. We're going to meet for an hour now. After the hour, if you come from outside, then sign off and we'll finish. And if you're one of the project partners, you can stay on and we'll talk a bit longer. We're going to hear from people involved in a national piece of work on landed kitchens, including 3 pilots from Lancaster, Sheffield and Nottingham. And then we're going to hear 2 case studies, one from the Warren and one from the Massey project in Bristol. And then after that, hopefully, if I'm fierce enough and keep you all to time, which I'm intending to be quite ferocious, speakers, with your timing, because we want to have some time for a group chat at the end and some questions. Okay, so I'm going to hand over to Chiara now from Coventry University, who's going to tell us briefly about a national piece of work to start to investigate and pilot the idea of landed kitchens. Over to you, Chiara.
Thank you, Jade. Can you all hear me well? Great. So welcome everyone. It's very exciting to see you all here and as many of you. So the Landed Community Kitchens project started about a year ago. And what are landed community kitchens? So they are community kitchens that bring together 2 of the most vulnerable segments in the food system: agroecological producers and small producers on the one hand, and people in food insecurity on the other. Why we call them landed is because while many food support initiatives for people in poverty or soup kitchens are using food that comes from who knows where, usually surplus food or waste food from the mainstream food supply chains, landed kitchens are striving to try to have as much as possible food that comes from specific places in the urban or peri-urban area, and food that is sustainably produced. Obviously, this is a major challenge, and one of the reasons that we have this project is to try to support them in being more sustainable and overcome their precariousness in developing these initiatives with these goals. We have in our research project, action research project, we have 8 regional coalitions in cities of the north of England mostly, and there is 5 partners of us that are trying to support them. So Jade from the Real Farming Trust, myself from the Center for Agroecology, Water and Resilience. We have Maddie Longhurst from the Urban Agriculture Consortium, Gareth, that is here as well today from Regather, and Susie from the CSA network. And this is one of the many initiatives where we try to foster knowledge exchange and learning among different kitchens. And we want, of course, to support our kitchens in the project, but also other initiatives that feel inclined to this vision and might want to join a national network to support these goals. And maybe to foster your own journey in becoming a landed community kitchen. So if this is the case, just get in touch with any of us organizer and drop us an email. I will put my email in the chat. Thank you.
Yes, so Chiara mentioned that maybe there'll be some network between those of you who are trying this idea. So of course you've all booked onto the webinar, but I don't have permission to share your email addresses with each other. So if you'd like to share your email addresses with each other, then you need to put them in a chat so that you can capture them from each other. In addition to that, I'll put it in the chat. I'm going to see if you'd like to join a mailing list so that you can hear about these kinds of things more broadly. And a different one, if you want to hear about these kinds of things about landed kitchens specifically, we'll ask for your email address in a way that we can share it with each other and inform you when we produce a publication or do another webinar of this kind. So I'll explain all that in the chat. And then next we're going to hand over to 3 of the pilots. You've only got 10 minutes between you, so keep it brief. So 3 of the pilots involved in this project are going to say hello, which is fantastic. You can take it in any order. We're hoping to hear from Sheffield, Nottingham and Lancaster. So over to you 3.
Who's going first?
I don't mind. Pop in.
Okay. I'll go first. Hi, my name is Gareth Roberts, and part of the Regather Cooperative. I have a role on the steering group for the Landed Community Kitchen project. There's quite a few projects sort of working in parallel, and a number of organisations working collaboratively. As far as the projects concerned in Sheffield, we're focusing on a geography that we've been working within for a while, which is all about connecting the city centre with an area called the Moss Valley, which is where there's around now 50 acres of agroecological food production, horticultural food production, and in between the two, that city centre and peri-urban, we have also the Gleadless Valley area, which is a housing estate that's undergoing a substantial sort of renewal through a regeneration program, a housing regeneration program. And we're situated within that program as a community partner, have been since 2017. And yeah, we're really looking forward to the next 4 years, particularly where we do have some funding in place from the EU Horizon programme to explore the role of nature and reconnecting the landscape. And yeah, we see obviously food being instrumental to that. And we have a range of community partners with who we're going to work to establish a landed community kitchen within that regeneration programme.
Exemplary, Gareth. Thank you. You kept exactly to time. Who's next?
I can go if you like. So, hi everyone, I'm Ellen. I'm based in North Lancashire, in Lancaster. And I guess our approach to this comes from our food partnership, which is called Food Futures. So we essentially spent some time developing a 10-year community food strategy, which is all around everyone in our district having access to healthy, resilient and fairly provided food. And we have we have working groups around the kind of economy and agroecological produce area, and then also around the food justice area. And I guess we saw the Landed Community Kitchen project as a way of trying to bring those together more clearly. So we have a food hub, which is a collaboration of around 10 local producers who are come together to try and sell and market their produce better. And we saw that as a way of bringing potentially surplus or produce that could be processed but not necessarily sold direct to customers into the food justice network. And then we have the Food Justice Partnership is a network of food banks and food clubs, and that has some provision of community cafes within that. But we haven't been able to kind of, join up the agroecological produce with the provision of community meals. So through our project, we're trying to pilot that model. So it's open to everyone, but it's using agroecological produce, and it might link to some other things in the district, like the allotments, maybe surplus from the allotments, or community gardens where they're growing specifically for the food justice network. And our idea is to pilot that in a number of places across the district, because we have Lancaster City Central, we have quite a lot of rural areas and areas with greater food insecurity. So it's a way of trying to catalyse work or the model in some specific community settings, and then sort of seeing what energy there is around that and how things might be funded going forward. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Alan, for keeping time, keeping it easy for us. And the last one I think is Nottingham, is that right? Someone else here is going to share from the pilots? Present?
I'm here. Hi,
Brilliant.
I'm Bethan. Sorry, just pressing buttons. So I've been working with Bex Ellison on the Farm Start Incubator project with the Urban Agriculture Consortium, where we were trying to get farm incubators set up, and that was 2 years ago. But in the meantime, we've been working on getting agroecological produce into our community gardens and our food justice food banks around the site, around the city and the county, because we of course have a we have a very big gap between our large scale producers and our market gardeners, but we've managed to partner with a relatively small organic and biodynamic farm called Trinity in Cossall, and we're working with a pilot project with EcoWorks, which was an inner city community garden space that run a weekly food and growing site. So we're getting the food direct from the farmer and using it in a community kitchen, and we would like to roll that out we've got a huge network of Nottingham growing community gardens and canteens, and we would like to roll that out further. But we're starting small with one garden to begin with and one farm, working with different people across Nottingham to expand that.
Thank you so much, Becca. That was really nice and clear. So very exciting piece of work with these projects with great support from partners, particularly Chiara and Maddie, to help them get going, but also to learn from what they're doing and to study what they're doing and draw out information. And we're hoping, in addition to that, that we begin to encourage this model more generally across the UK and even further out in other countries that Chiara is connected with. And to share our expertise, because it's such a useful and helpful model to offer for both for farmers, but also for community groups. There's a lot of wins. So I've just reiterated in the chat the ways to share your contact details. It's very cumbersome. If you want to share with other people on the chat here today, then just put your contact details in the chat and catch the ones you want from each other, because I'm not allowed to share them. There's a mailing list run by the Real Farming Trust where we send occasional news of events like this one, or publications about food social justice in general. And then there's a specific one for if you want to take part in landed kitchens, network in general is what they're called. Sorry, it's so cumbersome. Thanks for that. We're being very good about GDPR. Okay, so we've got two really interesting case studies today. We're really grateful they could come. They're not part of the national pilot. So that's really interesting, because we'd like to hear what they're doing and for them to connect in a bit with more intensive work. So Derry, I think you're down to go first. Is that right? Are you here?
I am here.
Fantastic. Thanks for joining us. So you've got 10 minutes and I'm going to be ferocious.
Ferocious,
Really
10 minutes,
it's
okay.
a great project to share. Thank you. Off you
Okay,
go.
let's go. So yeah, my name's Derry Reid. I'm a chef by trade. I run a restaurant called The Warren in Carmarthen. We've been doing it for about 9 years now, and it's been based on local seasonal organic produce, cooked simply, honest, wholesome food. We've won lots of awards from the Good Food Guide around that kind of ethos of cooking local and serving local food. And then about 3 years ago, just in the midst of COVID, I had a big epiphany moment that I was only really serving my community who could afford to eat my food. And that wasn't the reason for opening the restaurant. It was to serve the community good local seasonal organic food. And I realized with a big slap in the face that wasn't happening. So the idea of setting up a kind of a community kitchen in a unused community centre popped into my head. There was an empty community centre because of COVID. So I approached them, and within about 6 months, we decided to create a pay what you can afford lunch service 1 day a week. And we started really, really small. So obviously with the reputation of the restaurant, it helped from the marketing promotional side. And from the suppliers that I was using of the local seasonal producers. So I kind of reached out to everyone that I knew within my network and was like, this is what I want to be doing. Let's give it a little spin. Who wants to get involved? So we had some donations from some of the suppliers. People donated their time. The community centre donated the space and paid for electric and gas to just kind of kick the project off. And I donated my time to do the cooking. We reached out to see if we can get some volunteers. With them nice and pretty, and it was a huge roaring success, and it has been ever since, really. Still to this day, it's 2 years moving forward. Well, not far off 3 years now, actually. And last year we decided to set an allotment, and so again approached the local allotments, and they gave us an overgrown patch for very, very little money. Did very similar to the community kitchen and asked the local community if anyone would be happy to come and help me grow some vegetables. I don't have a ton of experience in growing. I've focused on the cooking side of things, so my knowledge is quite limited when it comes to growing. But again, people stood up, came forward, and we've now got a thriving 1/2 an acre plot now within the allotment. We got a huge 36-foot by 60-foot polytunnel, a forestry kind of area. We're harvesting a fair amount of salad and greens for the community kitchen at the moment. And it's working well, but there's lots of people volunteering. There's lots of people who can afford to pay for the food, paying for food, and also paying it forward. We're also able to provide for the people who can't afford to pay for the food too. So the model works incredibly well. And that model is just trusting that people who can will, and people who can't afford, they can't afford right now. It's not necessarily forever, it might be forever, but just trust that that's the situation that they're in right now. And it has created a real sense of safety and community and connection in a world where a lot of us are consumed into our phones and confused by the messages that are being sent out into society around food and health and nutrition. And the people of Carmarthen are kind of taking that responsibility into their own hands, really. And the project is called Keg and Heading, which translates to Seed Kitchen. And the idea behind it is that we're not there to kind of force all of this information onto you. We're there, we're providing food, we're providing the space for people that want to come in and eat together and eat healthy food that's grown locally. Lots of local growers come to eat the food. They might bring in donated food that we then cook up and share with the community. And the kind of closed loop circle is very much visible to everyone. It's very transparent there. We're showing people that we're growing the vegetables. We're showing people that we're cooking it from scratch. We're showing people that we're cooking within the seasons. We're showing people that they can come and get involved with cooking. We're showing people that we're making soil with the leftover food that there is from the cooking process. We're showing people that you can reduce waste, and by doing that, we're making sure that any surplus food is packaged into ready-made meals, which we then freeze down and offer those on a pay what you can afford on the days that we're not open. And then, growing vegetables with the soil that we're creating then from the leftovers of the kitchen. So it's a real grassroots project. We've had a little bit of funding kind of further on down the line, but we didn't get any funding to begin with, other than from people that we knew and contacts, and a bit of online action to try and get local people to the launch event, which we raised a little bit of money at. But that's kind of Keg and Heading in a nutshell. And I welcome any questions later on or now.
That was brilliantly clear and very inspiring. I just want to come there now and see it. That really sounds fantastic. There was a question for you, so we'll just take this one very specific question, but otherwise we'll save questions for the end, from Beth, which was just about how large your growing space is.
Yeah, well, we started off with a normal one-sized plot in the allotment, which then went to another plot, and then went to a third plot. So we had 3 plots next to each other. Then we took on an area which was completely overgrown and put a huge polytunnel on there. And then there's another overgrown kind of what we're calling a well-being space, which has got lots of trees and nettles and a little bit of Himalayan balsam, and ivy and rubbish and things like that, which we've just taken on. So there is about 1/2 an acre that we've kind of taken on unused, unwanted plots that require a lot of labour to get back into action. But we've got the labour because of the people volunteering every week.
Brilliant, thank you. That takes you not quite up to your 10 minutes. So that was really wonderfully succinct and
Well, we've got
informative.
a fantastic documentary. The BBC came to, we were nominated for a community award last year. So they came down and they did a fantastic documentary, which is on our website on keganheading.org.uk. It's on
Can you do
YouTube.
that in the chat for us so we can have a look?
Yeah, I will do.
Really
And
great,
I
thank
feel like
you.
that does capture what's going on in the cafe, what's going on at the allotment. And there's a lot of volunteers and customers that have spoken on this mini documentary too. So I'd invite you to have a little look at it and see what we're doing. It is quite unique, and it is very much linked to what the landed community kitchen are also doing too. And I think that it's really, really important to make sure that your community kitchens are serving the best, most highest quality of food that you can possibly provide, and you can get that through tapping into people who are growing locally, or people who have got their allotments, or people who are foraging, or gleaning, or people that are linked to where all the apple trees are within your local community. There's loads of food out there, and there's loads of people out there that want to help. It's just getting them into the same room together to make that happen, I suppose.
That's brilliant. Thank you so much. So yeah, it'd be great to have the link to that documentary so everyone can find out some more. That's really fantastic. How about Mel? Is Mel here?
Yes, hello.
Fantastic. Hello, Mel. Oh, you look like you're in a great spot there.
I am. I'm actually in Greece on holiday visiting my family, so apologies if the blue skies make anyone jealous.
Thank you for joining us. You've got 10 minutes.
Amazing. So my name is Melanie, and I'm the founder of the Mazzy Project. We are a charity based in Bristol that empowers marginalised young people through food. So we support care leavers, young asylum seekers, youth recovering from homelessness and fleeing domestic violence. And we try and use food as a tool for social mobility, advocacy, and a cure to the public health crisis. And I've coming on here within this conversation from, I guess, much more the perspective of the impact a landed community kitchen may have on people and marginalized communities. I think especially working with this community that we work with, who are very much kind of not used to being able to access nourishing ingredients and kind of have this experience of seeing where food comes from. It's pretty amazing to see the impact of working, I guess, on that kind of model. So what we do as an organization, one of the main things that we do is our amazing meal kit service, which is very similar to Mindful Chef or HelloFresh. So we'll text our young people with a selection of 20 very seasonal recipes that our program director curates in-house, and then our volunteers will pre-weigh the ingredients every other Tuesday and then deliver it to the young people's homes. And the whole idea behind that, when I first started the Mazzy Project back in March 2021 in response to the free school meal scandal, it was very much kind of around enabling choice in what people are able to eat and giving marginalized communities the opportunity to be able to choose how to nourish themselves. But most importantly, it was actually very much driven around the idea of trying to help build a more resilient and localized food system that is also much more accessible to different communities that otherwise wouldn't normally have access to it, whilst also trying to support a local economy. So it took roughly 2 years because I don't come from like a growing background or a farmer's background. I grew up in Athens, so very kind of city life. But we got our program director, Lily, who's absolutely amazing. And we really began to build really solid relationships with local producers and local farmers, where we actually buy the ingredients that we use and that we deliver, because we believe that everyone should have equal access to high quality ingredients. And I remember when we first made that move, and we work now with roughly 5 farms in the area, Let Us Grow, 5 Acre Farm and Ferry Hill and a few more. And the first time that we delivered muddy veg to our young people, the response was very mixed. One of them responded and saying, "What the fuck is this? This is disgusting." But it was amazing because that response really shows, I mean, number one, the gap, but also really shows it created a conversation that we could have with this young person around why the veg is muddy, and then, you know, convince them. And I think one of the amazing things has been being able to see the young people start building within their own thought process how nourishing ingredients, how the difference between, you know, the fresh ingredients they might buy from the supermarkets to the ones that we deliver, which have been, you know, picked that day or the day before, really supports their mental health and their physical health. And then building the relationships with the farmers has also been incredible, because we've also been able to take our young people to the places as part of our education programs, which really try and build on this idea that I think landed community kitchens, you know, have very much at its core. It's around this kind of solidarity. It's around this idea of community and accessibility, and making people feel like, you know, they have ownership over their land and what they can eat. And we try and really embed that within all of our programs, and even within our meal kits, we will send out education leaflets that tell them about where their food has come from, what farms we use, why it's important to cook seasonally. And the response that we've also had with the farmers has been amazing, because we've really, I mean, very sadly, been able to see how much our, you know, weekly order or so will make a difference for them, because currently, obviously, the system and the policies, etc., that are in place aren't supportive enough of them. And being able to at least play a small part in supporting them to make sure they can keep going it's great. But sadly, because Mazzy's struggling with funding, you know, like so many places are, we've had to reduce our meal kits from weekly to bi-weekly. And we're already seeing a response from the farmers to say that, can you please try and support us in filling this gap that you guys, you know, have, we've created. I mean, the government's created the gap and we're trying to fill it. Anyway, sorry. Yeah, so I think it's been, I was just thinking about the questions that Doris mentioned to touch on, and kind of the benefits, I think, of landed community kitchen are helping truly like empower communities. It's helping people that never thought they would be able to respond to the climate crisis feeling like they're a part of it. And I think even for me personally, creating this community kitchen that we've now had for 2 years, and having a space where our young people can come, having a space where our young people can be interacting with our farmers, which is something we also want to build more on, is this idea of like community mobilizing and unity, and that actually, you know, that I think it really is able to symbolize equality. And I guess the thing that's really missing, which I know is a big part of, you know, the movements that all of us are trying to do, is trying to make government and policies and councils really care and value the culture that community kitchens can bring, the economic value that it can bring, the psychological, etc. So I guess that's, you know, what I feel like is missing, and I feel like it's a lot to have to always put it on us to have to create all of this, like, you know, national type of change. But I guess that is the power of food, of growing, of this whole sector, is, you know, food is love, it's so emotional. And I feel like this idea of sharing and sharing these experiences of seeing our young people pick food and, you know, cook with what they've just picked is just amazing. And I guess it's quite hard to try and think of how we can embed this and like make sure that we really protect and harness the power of community kitchens to become much more embedded within all communities. And I guess this is a really good start, but it's also how much responsibility do we need to create within policy and, you know, within other institutions like schools, etc., to really say that we are making this decision to move more towards this kind of like connection to our agroecological farms. Sorry, I rambled. I hope that's okay.
you didn't ramble. You were absolutely fantastic, and I kind of wish my MP had heard all that as well as this.
Okay, great.
That was really powerful. Thank you. I really hope you get on some other stages to say those things.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I can see we've got some questions coming in, which is really good. That's what we want.
Great.
We're only going to answer one from now, and we're going to take the rest at the end. So Becky's asked a question about Lush. So Lush is, so it's not a question from Mel, but you can chill, Mel.
Okay.
Your questions are
Great.
coming.
Okay, nice.
So this
Okay.
question from Becky is more general. So Becky's asked what Lush is and how it differs from landed kitchens. So Lush is a different model. Landed kitchens is the model where community kitchens are sourced direct from agroecological farms. Lush is useful to landed kitchens, but it's a different thing. So it's a model, not a project. I'll stick some information in the chat about it, so you can copy that and look at it later. It's where a farmer who's already direct retailing, perhaps to a farm shop or box scheme or something like that, asks their existing customers to buy one for someone that needs it. So they get the full retail price and they get some extra sales. And then they take that food and then make a partnership with a community food project, which could be a cafe or a different kind of community food project. They make a relationship with them, and that community food project distributes the food that's paid for by the farmer's existing customers. I said that quite quickly. There is a webinar about that lasting a whole hour. There's a little video about it and a handbook and so on. So I'll stick the information about Lush in the chat. There's other questions. Keep the questions coming. That's really good. What we're going to do now for 10 minutes, Felix, we're calling on you now, is to go into groups of, let's say, 5 or 6. They're not going to have a facilitator, so you have to look after yourselves. Don't disappear, because we're going to come back at the end for questions and discussion all together at the end. So hang on in there. If your group's a bit dreary, wait for 10 minutes and we'll come back to the whole group. Hopefully the groups are not going to be very dreary, because there are a lot of really cool people on the call. So we're going to go into groups for 10 minutes of 5 or 6 people without facilitator. Look after yourselves. Make sure everybody in your group gets a time to speak if they want to do that. In your small groups, you're going to talk about what your hopes are for your project or for this area of work, and what progress you've made so far. That's all. You won't be able to see the chat when you get into a group, so make a note of those 2 things. Your hopes for this kind of work and what progress you've made so far with your project. Felix, can you make that happen for us? Can we go into small groups of 5 or 6 for 10 minutes and bring us back after 10 minutes?
Cool.
Okay.
Go now.
Yeah, that's really good. Okay. So you're going to get to know each other a little bit in your small groups, and then we'll come back to the main group and we'll look at the questions you put in the chat when we get back. Thanks, Felix.
For anyone who hasn't joined the breakout group, you should have received an invite. If you haven't got one, let me know and I'll send it again.
I do. I was just looking at the questions in the chat,
Cool.
because I think I have quite a lot of knowledge to support people who are interested. But I will join one of those.
I'm just forwarding some questions to Melanie.
Felix, we only had me and Gareth in my group.
Oh, okay.
I don't know what happened to everybody else. It doesn't matter. It was only me and Gareth, because we're both project workers. So fine.
There's one group with just Gareth and Ray, and I can move them to another group.
Yes, I think do that. That group's too small. Just reassign them. And I don't need to be in a group. I can just wait for 10 minutes.
Yeah, I'll wait out here as well.
Hey, Joy. I haven't said hello to you yet.
Hello, Jade.
My queen used to have like drove like mad across Ireland, got to the hotel where I'd made an arrangement to have the call, set it all up, feeling good, 15 minutes to spare, and then their Wi-Fi went down. So
Honestly, you still managed to make it though.
this cafe's been really nice to me.
Well done.
I just like plugged in at 1 minute to go. Phew.
No, brilliant. Well done.
It was
Are you having
great.
a nice holiday?
well briefed and well selected there. Yeah, it was good. Nicely.
Mel is gonna have to leave because of her internet, so I'm just actually gonna send her the questions that came in for her, and she's gonna respond to them
Okay, she's going
over
to.
WhatsApp, and we can put the answers in the chat.
Oh yeah, that's fine. And we could just read them out. That makes it. You could read them out. That would make
I
it.
can read them out, and then I can read her answer as well.
The limelight you definitely deserve if you don't mind taking it.
Sure. Yeah, I can do the questions.
Yeah, brilliant. That's
Okay,
good.
let me just send these to her quickly.
Oh, funny, I just look at all the groups here, just seeing the people in their little groups. You wanted to go into another breakout room after these ones, Jade?
No, Felix, we'll stay together in the whole group and take questions then or comments from the whole group.
Shall I read out the questions when we come to it?
Oh, that would be really brilliant. Have you
Yeah.
have you want to go through the chat and get them all?
Yeah, I've been gathering them as we go.
Oh, that's really helpful. Do you want to just manage the questions then? Manage the 15 minutes yourself?
Yeah, I'm happy to do that.
That's really great. Yeah, that's good because I'm responding to emails and people are still trying to get into the call and stuff.
Sure.
Really helpful. Thank you.
Do we want to do anything else apart from questions? Do we want people
If we've
to?
got any time left after we've done the questions, then people can just say what they're doing in their project and introduce themselves to the group. I think that's no
Do you
problem.
think, but sort of verbally?
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
or just open the floor to comments. But we're only going to have about 15 minutes, so
Yeah.
will be much of that, I don't think. Thank you, Dora.
No worries.
Are we gonna I had it down in my calendar as until 2.
Yeah, until 1 we've got this public session, and then from 1 till 2, it's a bit unclear, but I think the people in the project, led by Chiara, just want to have an ordinary project meeting on the
Right.
same call. But they were a little bit hazy when we started whether we actually wanted to do that or not. But
Okay.
most people need to just clear off 1.
And do you want to just stay on this call for that? Yeah.
The second part of the meeting, yeah, if they want to go ahead, then we'll just keep this link open for the
Yeah, cool.
partners. Thanks, Felix, and we won't need you for that bit.
Cool.
Thank you. It's
Right.
extremely nice to have you on the call and worrying about
Yeah.
stuff you very much. It's really helpful to me.
Yes.
Thank you. I'll introduce you, Dora. When we come back to the main group, I'll just tell in one sentence about you.
Cool. Thank you. Yeah, it's just going to be sort of Mel, I suppose, and maybe you and Kiara answering questions. Sorry, not Mel, Derry, because Mel's had to leave. But I think that's fine.
I tell you what, Dora, I haven't scanned the questions, but unless they're specifically about the projects, it might be that someone else on the floor can have has got an answer. If they're general questions,
Yeah, there's a couple that are specific to projects, but there's a couple that aren't.
which anyone can answer, and that kind of helps with the networking. That's nice.
Let's do the specific. I'll do the specific ones first, and then we can kind of open them up. And I guess we'll do raising hands.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay,
Thank you.
great. How long is left? I've lost track of time.
How long did we want to do the breakout rooms for?
I think
It's 10 minutes, so I think we're about there, Felix.
Cool. All right, shall I close them?
Yeah, great. Thanks.
thanks.
So I'll introduce you, Dory, and you can look after the last 15 minutes.
Sounds good.
Welcome back, everyone. We're just waiting for a few more people to find their way back to the main group. Are we all back, Felix? I think we are. We're all back in the room, are we? All back together? I'm going to assume you are. Hope you all had an interesting chat. So I'm going to hand over to Dora to finish off the session. We've got about 15 minutes left. We'll finish at 1, unless you're part of the main project, in which we'll stay on for our meeting. So Dora's helpfully taken all the questions out of the chat. So we'll go through those first, and then if there's any time left, there'll be time for some comment and discussion from all of you. Dora's an important person to meet because she also works for the Real Farming Trust. And she's involved in the social justice hub of the Oxford Rural Farming Club. So she's quite a key figure, and she's also the one to take the credit for getting this webinar together. She's done a great job. Over to you, Dora.
Thanks, Jade. Yeah, so unfortunately Mel has had to jump off the call, but we've got a couple of questions specifically for dairy, if you wouldn't mind, dairy, answering these. So the first one is, how many people, I might give you two of them in a row. How many people volunteer on the land each week for such a big size? And then someone has asked also how you make the financial numbers add up. This person says their average payment is £2 a meal, and they do around 90 meals a day.
Yeah. Okay. So with the land, there's probably about 4 or 5 of us who regularly turn up, and then people drop in and out. Come in. Like the idea of the allotment is that there's not a huge amount of pressure to be growing vast amounts of vegetables for the kitchen. It's more to show people what we're doing, what's important to us, how good it can be, how nice it feels to be out with your hands in the soil and sharing food with each other. So it's kind of like another experience going to the allotment. If you're a volunteer there, you get a real experience of learning with each other about growing and how that makes you feel. And there's a bigger purpose that if we do grow enough vegetables, we'll be taking them to the kitchen and sharing them with the rest of the community. So there's not a huge amount of pressure that we need to be creating vast sums of vegetables from there. But what it does do, it sends out this really positive message that that shows that we're here, we want to connect with people, we're happy to receive vegetables. So what we find is that a lot of other allotment holders end up donating their vegetables to us, and it sends this big ripple out through the community of Carmarthen that, oh, Keg and Heading, they'll accept surplus vegetables. And that's what happens. We have vast amounts of vegetables that are donated to us. So we don't really need to grow, we don't need to grow anything for Keg and Heading because a lot of people are doing it for us. It's more just another service that we offer, I suppose. And then how the figures add up in the kitchen. So what we do is we charge, we have a kind of a suggested price. We don't say it's pay what you feel. We've changed it. We've always said that it's pay what you can, which is a slight difference, but I think that it's quite an important one. And that it's not, oh, I don't feel like paying today. It's I'll pay if I can, and I trust that, or we trust that people will if they can. So our price started at £5 for our main course. That was nearly 3 years ago, and now it is at £8 for our main course. And that's our suggested price. So the people that can afford £8, we're hoping that they will pay that. And the people that can't afford that, they can pay whatever they like. But £8 is what we're asking for to be able to help cover our costs, to pay the community centre, to pay the chef that runs things, to pay the management that keep the project going, to pay for the ingredients that we have, and to put a bit of money in the bank for kind of rainy days when we don't necessarily hit that mark. But and we do fundraising on top of that. We apply for grants on top of that. But I think what I found that's quite unique about our project is that it does generate a reasonable amount of money every week, because we are asking, our suggested price is a lot higher than what I've seen in other community kitchens that are providing food for next to nothing, 50p a pound for a meal. They're not making the money that they need to make to cover the costs to produce even that food. Even if the ingredient costs are donated, the cost of running the project is much more expensive than the ingredients.
Thanks. Okay, and I just wanted to answer, someone put a question to Mel in the chat, who's had to go, but she's answered it via WhatsApp. So someone had asked, how do people access your service? And she said they get referred through partner organizations. So they have 1,625 independent people, and then they have councils as well. So yeah, it is a referral service. For the last 5 or so minutes, we've had some quite sort of general questions in the chat. This is a bit of an experiment, but I know there's a lot of like expertise on the call. So I'm gonna just ask these questions, and if anyone wants to raise their hand and comment, or wants to have a bit of a discussion around that, then we can do that. Do people know how to use the raise hand function? Do I know how to use the raise hand function? Yeah. Okay. So we've had a question about practically, how can we better harness the power of community kitchens to work towards governmental policy reform? If anyone wants to comment, maybe they can just jump in.
Should I just say, I think I put an answer in the chat, so it would be nice to hear from someone else.
Yeah, I can't find a way to raise my hand other than using my actual hand, so I will do that. But so when the BBC did the documentary for us, quite a few politicians started turning up to the project, which I found fascinating because everyone started becoming quite interested in how this project actually works. So I feel like the best way to change policy is through action, and through just doing it, and showing by example what can be done. And the people of Carmarthen have done that here just by putting them in a room together, in a kitchen together, sharing the vision of what we want our kind of community to look like, which is really good food, accessible to anyone, no matter what background they come from. And that's it. That's our kind of like ethos. And people who also believe in that ethos have come together, and we're just doing it. We're just doing it, and people are jumping on, and it's been a snowball effect. So then I think when it comes to politicians writing policy, they can see examples of projects that work, and see the benefit that they bring, because ultimately I think in the long run it will be good for government to see that people can take responsibility for their own health and well-being and the environment. And I think just do it through action. That's what we're doing anyway.
I can't actually see the hands. I think Felix can see his hands are up.
I
Would you
can
mind?
see them. Dawn has raised their hand.
Dawn, did you have a
Great.
question?
Hi, yeah, I think that the way that we tried to do it to influence policy was, a lot of it was really to try and work out what are they looking for, and often it's this sort of monetary value. So it wasn't, for us, obviously, a lot of the stuff we're doing is about social value, short supply chains, really kind of showing value in people in place, centering those communities and the environmental benefits. But actually combined, when you think of environmental benefits, the social benefits, the short supply chains, but more than that, it's like the efficiencies and the cost savings. Then when you put them all together, it just makes sense there, because we're reducing the burden on public health, because a lot of the stuff we're doing is including lots of local people, especially people who've been marginalized and disenfranchised. We're a coastal community in Hastings. So bringing those people in to be part of this system where we source locally, we then take surplus, or have this environmental waste program where we think about how we're preserving foods, or whether we're redistributing it or replanting it, whatever it is we're doing, we're creating this closed loop system, which is very, very local. But we're also paying the local farms that we were working with, a fair amount, like showing value in them as well. So it kind of, that in and of itself, not just the monetary side of it and the environmental side of it, but there's the social benefits as well, but also showing value in those people, because, with their mental well-being, at least they have something to do, or we're at least saying, we see you, we value what you're doing, especially for local farms.
Susie, do you have a question?
No, it's just a kind of musing on the policy question of, like, I mean, it feels a bit like we can sort of shout about all the different benefits as loud as we like, that nobody really listens. But I wonder how much power there is in trying to sort of, I mean, I think in other areas this is much more advanced, that the communities that are experiencing the change are kind of encouraged and supported to speak up themselves about what they want and what's working with the services that are around them, particularly like the public services that but I don't know. That's just a sort of question really to other people, I guess. Is that something that people do, like encouraging instead of us going to doctors and saying, why don't you do green social prescribing, going as patients, I mean ourselves and anyone else, and saying, I want green social prescribing. I don't know how much of that happens really.
Gareth, did you have your hands up?
Well spotted, Chiara. It did go up. Yeah, it just we stay like laser focused on because we're a trading business, on meeting customer demand and stimulating customer demand, and that sort of leads what we then do. And I think that then enables us as an organization to do our version of, I think, what a lot of other people here are also doing, but situated in a particular context. And in terms of communicating impact, social impact, that's obviously vital, but often more vital for funders and people who are accessing the services or the products or whatever. And but as far as the sort of policymakers and sort of local national government, I think we all appreciate their preoccupation with the economy and with the economics and the growth. And so we never forget to mention that we're about real living wage jobs, that with a flat pay hierarchy across the organization, and doing everything we can to make sure that where we can create jobs, we are creating jobs and not just displacing what could be a paid job, with volunteer labor. And so there's a strong economic focus that we find does kind of cut through a lot of the kind of noise that we have to cut through to reach people. And then the environmental, social, health benefits kind of can come in on the back of that, with a more responsive audience. And that leaves us focusing sometimes on entirely different policy areas. So arguably, we're just as interested in how enterprise startup funds are allocated and spent in a particular area as we are maybe how, say, social prescribing funding is spent in a local area. Because how people set up and run businesses of social enterprise, charitable, or just mainstream for-profit businesses, shapes how those businesses operate. But it often sits kind of somewhere else. Training and skills as well. There's another good example of a massive policy agenda with huge sums of money being spent, that is vitally important to shaping how a landed community kitchen might operate. Because it's about accessing food safety training, or knowing about how to cook or how to grow. These are just as important. And I think in our experience, they are sort of potentially more accessible because they're easier understood by local and national government as policy agendas. So sort of, in Regather we call it back to basics. Just as within the team, it's like we can easily find ourselves having these discussions about very aspirational, very kind of values-led issues, but we always try and what are the basics that we are actually touching on here, and how can we then build on that foundation with the aspirational, inspirational stuff that that keeps us all going.
Great. Well, we're gonna have to thank you, Gareth. Thank you, everyone. We're gonna have to wrap up now because we are at our hour. But thanks so much, everyone.